Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Alundra. Well, we finally made our way out of Maya's dream. There don't seem to be any immediate repercussions, considering that we just sort of invaded her dreamscape and learned about all her secrets, her backstory, and the fact that we beat up a bunch of chain statues of her kind of implies that, like, those were repressed memories, so you think that it would impact her character, but... yeah, the only real implication right now is that Septimus comments that... oh yeah, he's late for his weekly pedicure. How adorable. Who gives the pedicures? Useful? I have no idea. Anyway, so yeah, the only particular implication is simply that we now know Maya is an ally, and one of the handful of people we can actually trust in a village full of devil worshippers. We are treated to this small cutscene, which is actually supposed to happen immediately after you leave Maya's dream, but I wasn't really sure where to put it. It was awkward to start an episode, so I moved it here. I have no idea what these guys are. It's like, what the heck could possibly be going wrong with this town now? We've got a bunch of little imps with scythes. I guess we've got another objective. At the very least, the game is pointing us in that direction. But enough of that. Save our game. No banging tools from downstairs, so obviously nobody died while we were sleeping, thankfully, for once. But we have been given a more direct objective. Jess seems to be a pretty consistent source of hints as to where we're supposed to be going, so it's reasonable to believe that once we've woken up we'll get another nice clue, and it's definitely the case. Do you ever tell us about an old man named Nava? Well, I'm sure he'll be telling us now, and I'm sure it'll be extremely useful. We've been by there pretty often. It's pretty obvious that Nava is secretly one of the 7 sages, considering he is well aware of the existence of people like Vol, the guy in the coastal cave. We just haven't really learned his full backstory yet. But now's as good a time as any, so let's go head back down to the coast, talk to a few extra people, see what the tone of village is and who's still actually speaking to us on decent terms. We'll head down south. So Keisha here mentions that it seems that her brother is changing, and changing does sort of recall what happened to Klein after we left his dream. Notice that Giles is still not really on our side, even though we did save his life by entering his dream. Also note that Giles was infected by the same thing that infected Klein, so we'll see if that comes back later and how that manifests. But first things first, it's time to go say hi to Nava. Note that we already haven't seen anything from Maya, despite the fact that we did in fact just spend the entire last scenario sort of revolving around learning her past history. So we'll see how that plays out later too. Here's Nava's house, door's closed. Oh, there she is, Maya. She of course says absolutely nothing. You'd think that she would notice that we were in her dream, you know, unleashing her deepest, darkest memories. You'd think that she would have some kind of lasting impact, but no, nobody ever brings it up. It's really weird. I guess just knowing that she's an ally was good enough. No, we didn't hear it. We'll say yes anyway, because we did in fact see that cutscene. But alright, now it's time. This is sort of a side path, a trip, to give us our next objective. We're going to meet the giant Nerud, who is apparently a good god, or something fairly close to it. So that's where we'll be heading next. First things first, we get the Spring Bean, which is the last of the items that we need. It's basically the game's equivalent of the hookshot, and it's basically just there to allow you to traverse, not necessarily long gaps, but gaps in height, which are pretty common in this game. We can make our first use of it here in Nava's house to pick up this treasure chest that we've probably seen a couple of times already, considering this is not my first trip to Nava's house in the first place. We could pick up a Gilded Falcon on his bookshelf. He could have just given us the falcon. I don't know why he made us go through the trouble of picking it off the shelf, you know, by ourselves. Anyway, now that we've got the Power Glove and the Spring Bean, basically the entire world map, other than a couple of places that are locked for storyline reasons, are now accessible to us, which means that we can pick up a good deal of the items that I've been avoiding, and a few of the ones that I've been avoiding just because I forgot what they were. So that's basically what this episode is going to be about. Now is also an important time for us to pick up a couple of items that are not mandatory now, but will be mandatory later. And rather, I should say, when we're allowed to pick them up is no longer dictated by the plot. It's just sort of, we'll have to adventure and find them on our own. We'll see a little bit of that later in this episode. Another Gilded Falcon here, to the east of the coastal cave. That's, again, something that we saw back when we were adventuring on the beach. That's 2 already in this episode, and it's basically what we're going to be doing for the next half an hour to an hour of gameplay footage, is picking up the various Gilded Falcons. Realistically, we should be at, I think, close to 40 if we Gilded Falcon that was available to us right now. And there are a number of things that we could have done, at least piecemeally, sort of side quests that we could have started, but not completed until now. But now that we've got basically access to every area on the world map, along with a number of optional items we'll be picking up shortly. I figured it would be best to save some of those cutscenes for when we can sort of do them in their entirety. So, where are we going now? We don't need to go to the bar yet, although we will be going back pretty soon to pick up the 3 Gilded Falcons there. Or at least the ones that you get for completing all the games a second time. I just don't have the patience to do the roulette minigame a second time. So yeah, let's do this. Now that we have the Power Glove, we can actually lift the giant block that keeps us from getting to this statue here. So let's put on our Power Glove and make use of this for the first time in this Let's Play. Yeah, nice item drop from that. There aren't very many of these big blocks in the game. Here lies the Sword of King Snow. Whoever attempts to breach the seal will be... well, I mean, realistically nothing is going to happen. Again, as I've mentioned before, this is an item you basically only get if you've done incredibly badly in the game so far. King Snow was, I guess, a legendary everything. I wonder if he was the king who ordered the statues of Mel's destroyed. Check it out. There's his sword. It is, in fact, exactly as awesome as he says. It's 25 times as powerful as the basic dagger. So yes, we do not have skills worthy of his blade, but we haven't sucked enough at the game, so he has no particular reason to give it to us now. You have to have seen the game over screen 16 times and restarted every single time, in succession in the same playthrough, and have saved in order to actually be considered bad enough to get the sword. Naturally, since we haven't died once during this playthrough, we are nowhere near bad enough to have actually qualified for it. I will make sure we get the sword before the game is over, but since it supersedes any other sword you could possibly get, there's no reason to do so now, because it'll basically prevent us from ever upgrading our sword ever again. It almost makes the game too easy. We'll pick it up later when the bosses become strong enough and use the special damage formulas that no longer make the sword quite as overpowered as it would be if the game gave it to us as sort of a forced easy mode. So we'll hold that off again until the very end. Yeah, okay, we've been here already. Time to do some more exploring. Basically what we're going to be doing is looking for those seed pots. Anything that we can use. Okay, first we'll go talk to Maya. Because now that the watermill is running, we can access this area here. And there's a couple of treasure chests. This area was gated up if you tried to access it before the mill starts running. And of course there's a Gilded Falcon in here, which makes this the opportune time to go pick that up. And of course a strength tonic. You know, we've left strength tonics littered all through the countryside at this point. It's not surprising there's one more here too. I guess we'll try to remember it's there in case we ever need 10 points of health while we're wandering through the countryside. Just can't wait till we get back to Noah to refill. Now is also one of the best times to explore the northern part, up where Magiskar was. As you may recall, I sort of ventured into that general area to find one Gilded Falcon and one Life Vessel a little while ago, just to make sure that I had a round number before I entered a dungeon. We can go up here using the Spring Bean. It's actually a bit of a shortcut to the Magiskar area. We could, of course, I have of course been here normally without using that, but we could have gone to the west, and I forgot to do this while I was here normally, and pick up yet another Gilded Falcon. That's 4 for this episode already, and 25 in total. Which means we can pick up a Life Vessel. Yeah, so this area should look familiar. The Magiskar is up there to the north. To the east is that sandy area that I sort of skipped to at one point while I was exploring. Yep, Magiskar to the north. Thank you, Helpful Signpost, for validating my commentary. I appreciate it. Let's continue moving to the west. I think this is vaguely... To the northeast is where we're supposed to be going, or I should say through that cave that opened up with little imp guys in order to access the next part of the storyline. But there's still a ridiculous amount of stuff that we can do just adventuring around places we've already explored. The next place we want to go is generally the coal mine region, because there's one new house we can explore, and something close to the path to the Merg Tree. This is again the altars where we replace the remaining crests once we actually have them. And I believe there's one more altar to the west that we haven't actually gotten to yet. It's actually a little bit confusing trying to figure out where to get to all the crests, and it could almost be considered a puzzle unto itself, just finding the 7 platforms to put the crests on. But again, we'll cover that once we actually have more crests to use. Let's move to the south. There isn't a treasure we're going to be picking up here, but it is important to be going to this area because there's something new that becomes accessible in the coal mine area once you've passed a certain point in the storyline. This house over here used to be empty, but if we go here now, I mean, the ground floor is still empty, so we don't feel guilty about smashing that pot. But up here is this new guy, Kohei. This is basically just the sound test. This guy is named after the sound composer for the game itself. He makes us a few references to John Tesh, of all people, who's apparently a renowned composer in the world of Alundra, which is terrible, but basically we can stand in front of his little phonographs and You can play various songs from the game. More of them open up as you continue to progress through the storyline. He appears, I believe, as soon as you finish the Sand Temple for the first time. But we just happen to be passing through, so I showed it now. This is okay. Now I believe I showed the opening part of this room previously. This is again north of where Olin's house used to be standing. There was no particular reason to explore this area because obviously we need the spring beans, the magic beans, to finish it. And you can take a wild guess what's in that little chest up there, considering what this entire episode has basically been all about. That's right, another Gilded Falcon. That's 26 in total and 5 for this episode. Still got a couple left, don't worry. Let's skip now. Where are we? Oh yeah, this is the path to the north of the coal mine that normally led to the exit to the coal mine dungeon itself, and this is obviously something I could have done quite a while ago, but I completely neglected it because, again, as usual, I didn't realize I could make this jump. We also saw this chest from the other side of the river while we were walking around looking for Kohei's house, so we might as well go pick it up now. Yes, yet another Gilded Falcon. As you can see, we had quite a bit of catching up to do, in addition to the ones that we can access now that we have the Spring Bean. So, one more skip here. I need a minute to reorient myself exactly. Yeah, okay, this is back where we placed the first 2 crests. Again, neglected to do this. You can jump off this bridge, the one that connects to the island containing the remaining crest platforms to find the last one. And again, another Gilded Falcon. Again, something we could have picked up while we were adventuring through this area, placing the first 2 crests just for the heck of it. But something I decided to leave for now, because what we're about to do is something we really can't quite complete until you pick up the Spring Bean. And it is extremely important to do this at some point during the game. It is, in fact, exploring this area will eventually be required. Just not immediately, so I might as well take care of it now. I will get that chest eventually. I don't believe we can access it from here, and I don't believe there's a way you can land on that bridge just by dropping down this waterfall. So we'll cover that a little later. What we need to do is keep going. We're basically heading towards another portion of the beach that we couldn't access from Nava's house. Remember, we can't travel through deep water, so we couldn't access the western half of the beach just by moving to the west from the coastal cave area. And again, you can see this is a new area because there's like a million treasure chests that we haven't even touched or opened yet. Let's go up here. This area is not particularly fruitful to explore. Yeah, I don't really need any new items. That chest, of course, I can't reach. It's just barely out of the way. I'll have to go get that later. Just basically taking a little inventory of this area, trying to figure out where I can go from here. I do get a little lost when I have these exploration sequences, but certain areas I choose to leave in because it shows you the map as a whole without making the overall exploration seem discontinuous. There's actually a current flowing against you here, and it's very difficult to get into this little tributary here without jamming on the button, but keep at it. It is in fact possible to get there, obviously, and this is a brand new area. This is basically the far west area of the map. This is the first time we've been here, obviously. You can use this stones jump across to the east side, and in fact it's the only way to get across there without taking this from another direction. And of course I was a moron and smashed the stone. It does not respawn just by zoning, so we will have to find another way to get up to the little platform to the east. And of course it wasn't worth it because we can't explore this cave yet. It's blocked by a briar patch, and the only chest there was not accessible. We need to get up to that right area to access that chest, but we'll do that a little bit later. There's another path up there we'll be going through in a bit. We'll head to the south. These trees come to life. They show up a lot in the Magiskar area, but I don't even care about them right now. Again, the Power Glove is basically what we need to get to this particular area, which is again why we haven't headed in this direction yet. Pretty mundane, just one of those fire phantom enemies. Nothing too exciting yet. This is annoying. So there are these 8 fish that are in a circle, and if you stand here in the middle, they will pop up. It's like the game's worst. It's like the worst game of whack-a-mole you've ever played in your life. You can stand here like an idiot and wait for them to pop up, or you can be smart about it and patient and sit and wait for them one by one, because it is in fact completely random which one actually pops up at a time. Once you kill all 8, we get a strength elixir, so that was totally worth it. By that I mean it was not worth it at all, because we have plenty of strength elixirs, and there are still a number of left around the countryside for us to pick up later, so we don't even really need one now. Moving into this cave, again this is another non-mandatory part of this exploration. This particular cave led out in the far south, basically the southwest area of the Anoa region, to the east. Again the goal was to get to the west of the coastal cave. There was nothing at the end of that other than some money that you got from killing those chest enemies. So let's move to this cave. And what we do here is pretty obvious. Just use the flail to break down those blocks. Now we have to get to that switch. I guess it's perfectly fine to tank a few hits from these little spike balls here. I mean, they do so little damage, and there's nothing particularly threatening, since this isn't a major dungeon, just an optional area. Yes, use this. Just go down the side, thank you. This can get a little frustrating. We're supposed to jump from platform to platform, but as usual, it's a little bit difficult to get the proper perspective, considering oftentimes these platforms tend to be on differing heights, and it's kind of hard to tell if that's still the case when they're so close to each other like this, or when you don't really have a reference point like you do now. But, again, pretty straightforward, jump from platform to platform, and that's basically all there is to this particular cave. See if we can top off our health a little bit, break down this block, and we'll head to the next part. This is just basically just a short network of caves going to lead to our next optional objective. We are almost there. So yeah, this leads to that little ledge that we saw before. We couldn't get to because we couldn't swim up here. Let's kill these little water guys. Yeah, let's move back to the sword because it's a better weapon for actual combat. It does more damage. This chest, I can tell you now, doesn't contain anything mandatory. It's just another magic elixir. Lovely. Exactly what I wanted. The sad part is these chests aren't really convenient enough for us to return to, so there's no incentive for us to leave them there just as, you know, something to pick up in case we happen to need a freebie. So yeah, again, we need the spring bean to get up here, and once we get up here, we will exit this particular part of the cave. And where the heck will this lead us? Well, an optional area, but one we'll discover on the next episode of Let's Play Alundra. I will enter it, and we'll find out what's inside then. See you then!